Hello, my name is Ainsley, and welcome to my BookTube channel where we discuss, critique, and analyze books, share book recommendations, and do book tags. In today's video, we will be discussing Agatha Christie novels, and I will be sharing with you the best Agatha Christie mysteries for a hot girl summer. Now, I realize that not all of these are super beachy books, and there is also going to be some I'm sure I have missed because I'm really stuck to Poirot and I'm getting more into Miss Marple. Otherwise than that, I haven't read a lot outside of either of these two, minus a few, or plus, I guess, a few of the Tommy and Tuppence ones. So some of these are going to be ones that you've heard quite a bit about, and others maybe not, depending on where you are in your Agatha Christie journey. So I just wanted to throw that out there before I get started. I will begin with the ones that probably more people know about, before getting into the ones that are not really obscure but just aren't as talked about, at least right at this moment. So the first one I will be sharing with you is a novel that I've definitely mentioned on this channel, and so I thought I would get it over with, and that is Evil Under the Sun by of course, Agatha Christie. I don't know why I always have this tendency to want to be like, this by this author. That is the only author that I'm currently talking about. But anyway, so the first one that I would say is perfect for your hot girl summer if you want to sit by the beach and just lay and tan and read a good old murder mystery. Evil Under the Sun is set at a nice little resort where Hercule Poirot goes to take a vacation, and as soon as he gets there, he knows that there is something off. There is in fact some evil under the sun. Of course, the rich girl who is quite flirty while being married, and she doesn't have a great relationship with a lot of people around her for various different reasons, ends up dead, and everyone has a motive, and it's up to Hercule Poirot to solve the case. Now, I've seen two adaptations of this, one starring Peter Ustinov, the other a part of the one part of the Agatha Christie's Poirot on ITV, I believe, and it's on PBS here in the States, or was. It's also available to watch on BritBox and Acorn, or just BritBox, with the exception of like 2 seasons that I absolutely love, but I do have those on DVDs, which is good. So we have about 11 seasons available on BritBox. Very good. And I do believe on those you do get to see Evil Under the Sun, which is one of my personal favorites of that series, as well as I do love the Peter Ustinov version. Now, of course, they add a few different things, but for the most part, they really, take to the story. So if you are a big mystery watcher as well, I do highly recommend those. And Evil Under the Sun is just a great little beach getaway that includes a murder of a rich woman. So if you're into that kind of thing, why don't you pick yourself up a coffee? I might need some coffee. Pick yourself up a copy of Pick yourself up a copy of Evil Under the Sun to take with you on your little beachy vacation. The next book that I will be sharing with you is one that is a recent movie. Well, the book itself has had a recent movie adaptation of it, and that is Death on the Nile. You may have recently seen Death on the Nile directed by Kenneth Branagh and starring Branagh as Hercule Poirot. Now, this movie had a few differences, as they all tend to do. If these are books that are talked about quite a bit and there's multiple adaptations, you kind of gotta go for it. I'm also a really big fan of again, Agatha Christie's Poirot version of this, and there is a Peter Ustinov one as well. They all have a few little differences here and there, but I do highly recommend, if you have never read the book, I say pick yourself up a copy of Death on the Nile. As you know, or might know, it follows the death or the almost pre-investigation part of it, because you have Hercule Poirot trying to convince this young woman to move on with her life after her fiancé leaves her for her much wealthier friend, and they end up going on this Nile cruise in which all three of them are the fiancé, the wealthy friend, and then the tilted, the lover who's just been pushed to the side and was left, and eventually Lynette Noyle ends up dying, and there's murder and investigation, and there's some comedy in there as well. Now, I do want to give a little knowledge, let you know that there may be some language in this novel in which Poirot and others do not really speak too well about the people in these countries, and it's important to call that out. I think, as a fan of Agatha Christie, and anytime you're a fan of something that may have came before it, of course, this is a different time, but it's also important to know that Agatha Christie was a very privileged white woman. She comes from a very wealthy family in England, and so she's probably going to have some ideals or thoughts that aren't really up to par with what we figure for today and what we know to be right and wrong. And so I just wanted to throw that out there as to not throw anyone off guard. Now let's discuss one that is not a Hercule Poirot mystery, and that is a Caribbean mystery with Miss Marple in the good old Caribbean. Now this one is quite beachy because, of course, again, it's in the Caribbean, and in another way this may be one of those similar to what I had just said with Death on the Nile, except instead of Egypt and that area, it's going to be in the Caribbean. But I do have to say, this one, you get Miss Marple coming here. She's on her little vacation. But of course, Miss Marple, being the nosy little spinster that she is, she gets involved in all the happenings that are occurring at this little resort owned by this English duo there, as well as a death of someone who seems to recognize somebody, and we, the audience, don't know who that is in the beginning. So it's a murder mystery as well as a mystery as to who was this person he was talking about, and other odd things that tend to be happening at this resort. Pearl at End House is another Hercule Poirot novel, and this one is Hercule Poirot at a hotel. This one isn't super beachy, but just something about the title, Pearl at End House, and being on a nice little holiday in a hotel really just stood out to me. Now, this one I haven't read in a really long time, so I am going to share a little bit about what it says on the back. And the majestic hotel seems the ideal retreat for Hercule Poirot until he meets lovely Nick Buckley. She's the last of a long line of Buckleys inhabiting End House, an imposing estate perched in isolation on the rocky cliffs of St. Lou, and a lucky Buckley at that. Claiming to have escaped 3 attempts to her life in as many days, Nick attributes the good fortune to the watchful guardianship of a beneficent ghost. But an investigation into the dark corridors of End House leads the Belgian detective to fear that Nick's luck may be running out. Now, this may seem a little autumnal in bits, because I do kind of get this ghostly atmosphere to it, but I do have to say that a good old holiday, I'm just feeling it kind of a nice late summer vibes. So if you're kind of this hot girl, summer girl, or you're a spooky girl, or you're into kind of the spooky season all year round vibes, I definitely think Pearl at End House. Okay, so if you are a golf fan, golf? a golf fan, then you may be interested in this next book featuring Hercule Poirot, Murder on the Links. Now, or The Murder on the Links. I have my copy right here, and of course, what does that mean? That means that Hercule Poirot must investigate a murder that occurred on a golf course. This one just gives me big ol' summer vibes because when I'm out and about and I come anywhere near a golf course, there are so many people there during the summer. And it's, of course, nice outside, so people aren't in the rain. And it just gives me kind of those, again, springy summer, late summer, early fall vibes. And it's quite a sunny novel in a sense. I don't know, there's this weird thing about when you read a book and you just feel these summer vibes, and it's a bit difficult to explain. That's what The Murder on the Links is for me. So I don't know. Have you read this book? Let's see. Let's see what this says about it. When Hercule Poirot arrives in France, he finds the body of the client lying in a freshly dug grave on a golf course. Inspector Gerard of the Paris Sûreté believes he knows who is responsible, but something doesn't add up. Only Poirot can avoid the traps laid by the killer, and it will take all his brilliance to solve this shocking murder. This is another one that I haven't read in a really long time, and I eventually got myself in my own copy, and I will probably be reading this again this summer. I decided to add it to this list because of the vacation elements of it, I guess. You have Hercule Poirot going to Mesopotamia, where there is this group involved in digging and a murder occurs. And it's also one of those that has almost this very, I always just call it the horror movie gimmick. I don't know if that's the horror movie trope where you have the formula in which you start of something that occurred in the past, or you have a murder that occurs and then you get on to the rest of the story. And so this kind of follows that formula. So if you're really into a good old horror movie as well, you will probably find yourself interested in Murder in Mesopotamia. And if you are into archaeology, like Agatha Christie, who became interested in the subject because her husband was an archaeologist, then you may find yourself really entranced by Murder in Mesopotamia. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I know I was a little all over the place. For some reason, my mind just couldn't get words right today or stay completely focused. I hope that you understand. If you have any other Agatha Christie novels or just mysteries in general that you find are perfect for a hot girl summer, please comment below with that. I would love to get your recommendations for both myself and anyone who happens to come upon this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like me and want to stick around, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell to be notified every single time I post. Thank you.